Grab your tea and hold on to your edges, because the drama bubbling around Stephanie and Drew Jenkins is piping hot and messy in the worst way. Just when everyone thought Drew was finally about to step up and be a responsible adult, the plot twisted harder than anyone saw coming. After months of excuses, gig jobs that barely lasted, and enough live stream monologues to fill a reality show, Drew Jenkins finally landed a W-2 job. Yes, an actual clock-in, paperwork signing, taxes deducted job. And not just anywhere, but back at Safeway. That's right, the same Safeway he once quit in a blaze of poor decisions, sending himself into a full-time spiral of internet antics, pity pleas, and public drama. Everyone, including Stephanie, seemed to be holding their breath. Maybe this was the turnaround moment they'd been waiting for. Except, babe, Drew never disappoints when it comes to chaos. He didn't even make it through the full onboarding before things started going sideways. Instead of treating this second chance like the golden ticket it clearly was, Drew went straight into self-sabotage mode. Picture this, he's sitting in a corporate training session, where you're supposed to be learning about safety, company policies, and how not to get fired, and what does he do? Whips out his phone and starts filming. No, really. He turned Safeway's official employee training into TikTok content. But it wasn't just a little, look I'm at work, a moment. Drew actually posted clips of internal training videos, orientation material, and step-by-step instructions meant for employees only. Confidential, corporate content just casually tossed online for views. Who does that? Especially when you're still on training wheels at the job. And here's where the tea boils over. People started whispering that this wasn't just some clueless mistake. That maybe, just maybe, Drew filmed it all on purpose. Was it to prove to Stephanie that he actually got the job he claimed he had? Or was he trying to earn points with his online donors, the same ones who've been funding his and Stephanie's off-screen drama through GoFundMe campaigns? Either way, filming during training isn't just tacky, it's the kind of stunt that could get him booted before he even finishes orientation.
Drew Jenkins is not going to last at his job. He's posting confidential information from Safeway where he's onboarding, and you can see the screenshots down here. He's like on his phone constantly when he's working. He's supposed to be onboarding, but he's taking pictures of like him completing those training videos that you have to do, like the safety, the bacteria prevention, hand washing thing, whatever that you have to do when you onboard, especially if you're handling any kind of food. Why is he taking pictures of everything? Like, I feel like he's trying to intentionally get fired, so that way he has an excuse to be like, hey, to the judge, hey dude, I tried to get a job, but they fired me, because it was interfering with my other job. And don't you, that's right, I'm looking at his account. I'm looking at, Drew Jenkins' TikTok account, and tell me why he has so close to 10K. I don't like that. I don't like that he's going to be able to monetize, so please do not go follow him. If you want to watch his videos, only watch them when you search them, and then he won't make any money.
But oh, honey, it doesn't stop there. While all of this is happening, Drew's still out here uploading videos from his side gig with DoorDash, vlogging himself picking up and dropping off food orders like he's running his own chaotic version of Undercover Boss. He's showing delivery bags, revealing drop-off zones, even accidentally, or maybe not so accidentally, showing private addresses, all while narrating his tasks for the camera. It's giving content creator first, employee second, and it's starting to feel like Drew's more interested in performing work than actually doing it. And now here comes the twist that really set tongues wagging. Drew actually tried to use this new Safeway job to dodge court. Yep, he told the court he couldn't attend a scheduled custody hearing, an important one, mind you, because he was in the middle of job training. It sounded legit, until the court called his bluff and refused to reschedule. And guess what? Drew still showed up. So what happened to that all-important, I can't miss this of training session? Was it even real, or was it just another carefully timed excuse to skirt accountability?
Drew from the resilient Jenkins finally got a job, y'all. Drew finally got a job. And then not only that, because court was today, so he tried to say that he wasn't going to be able to make it because he had job training, but he is required to drop Deshaun off with his mom and leave. And if he does not follow with this court order, then there will be an immediate court order. The judge will take in place of what's going to happen. So then, hopefully, Deshaun will be living with Desiree.
It gets even juicier. Drew didn't just show up to court, he showed up late, still clinging to the "I was at work" excuse. But here's the kicker: earlier that same day, he had plenty of time to post on social media, drop casual selfies, and reply to comments like nothing was going on. No stress, no rush, just another day in Drew's filtered fantasy world. If his job was so urgent, how was he lounging online instead of, training? The contradictions are piling up, and people are noticing. Instead of using this job as a tool for stability, Drew seems to be using it as a storyline prop, another chapter in the never-ending "I'm trying, the world just hates me" a saga he's been selling for months. And Stephanie? Let's just say her silence speaks volumes. Whether she's enabling it, covering for it, or just caught in the middle, no one's quite sure. But the image they've been trying to sell is cracking, and fast. What's becoming painfully obvious is that Drew might not be interested in stability at all. He's interested in optics, sympathy, and staying in the spotlight. And this Safeway job? It's starting to look less like a comeback and more like a stage, because if you can't make it through training without creating a scandal, how are you going to survive a full shift? This man has openly, repeatedly admitted, on live streams, in comment sections, and even during emotional rants, that he absolutely loathes structure, doesn't believe in being micromanaged, and cannot stand the way customers speak to retail workers. He's said it before, loud and clear: he prefers doing things on his own terms, with no supervision, no clock-ins, and definitely no authority figures looming over him. So why is he back at Safeway, the epicenter of rules, procedures, and customer service chaos? It's honestly laughable. The same man who dragged structure through the mud is now clocking into a job where his entire shift depends on following orders, smiling at rude customers, and working under tight corporate policies. Like, make it make sense. Either Drew has undergone a complete personality transplant overnight, or, more likely, this job is just another performance. A temporary role in his long-running drama where he gets to say, "See? I tried. But the world's just too cruel." And let's talk about that narrative for a second. Because Drew's already using the job as an excuse, not a solution. Late to court? Blame the job. Missed responsibilities? Blame the job. Ignoring content deadlines and disappearing from obligations? Yup, that job again. But it's not just about being busy, it's about weaponizing the job. Instead of treating it like a path to stability, he's treating it like an alibi. A shield. Something to blame when he inevitably spirals again. And honestly, it's starting to feel intentional. Like Drew's just waiting for the moment he can say, "Well, I tried, but it didn't work out," and cue the sad music, the heart-tugging captions, and of course, the donation links. Because why change when the current formula keeps bringing in sympathy and soft-focus praise? Meanwhile, over on Stephanie's end, the fairy tale fiction is still in full swing. While Drew plays TikTok's most reluctant employee, Stephanie's on her own personal PR tour, trying to convince the internet that life in a cramped, overheated motel is somehow a rustic family getaway. She recently posted a video of her kids picking blackberries behind the building like it was some charming countryside moment. But if you looked past the dreamy filter and whimsical captions, the truth was glaring. Her daughter, out in the sweltering summer sun, was wearing a full-body jumper, sweating, red-faced, and clearly uncomfortable. There was no breeze, no shade, and certainly no magical memory of being made. What we saw wasn't nostalgia. It was survival dressed up in Instagram aesthetics. It was neglect repackaged as whimsy. That motel? It's not a summer retreat. It's a stuffy, overcrowded, borderline unlivable space where kids are being forced to function in the heat with little to no appropriate clothing. There are no tank tops, no shorts, no sandals. Most days, the kids are wearing mismatched, oversized clothing, items clearly donated or thrown together with no consideration for the weather. It's not quirky. It's not minimalist. It's a clear sign of disorganization and, frankly, a lack of priority. And Stephanie? She knows it's hot. She talks about how unbearable the motel gets. But what does she do about it? Nothing. The kids aren't taken to a park. Not to a splash pad. Not even to a library or a grocery store just to get 30 minutes of air conditioning. They sit in that suffocating room while Stephanie vents to the camera about her stress, her exhaustion, her feelings. The children, who have no voice, no escape, and no relief from the heat, are just there. Sweating. Silently enduring. Her go-to excuse? We only have one car, and Drew takes it to work.
So in case any of you all are curious about that shirt that I'm always rocking inside out, it's this one at the beginning of the video. I had actually recorded this morning routine the day after we spent the night at the other motel. But it was a busy day, everyone was tired and exhausted and just needed a little extra mom attention, so I didn't really get to editing by the end of the day. So there's this big old blackberry bush outside where we're staying right now. So the plant kind of grew upward and they're kind of high for us to reach, and we have the good ones that are ready to be picked, but we still got as many as we could because we wanted to try to put together like a breakfast that had some kind of blackberries. We used the blackberries in some way. And that's why every video I have less and less eyebrows. I don't know what is up with that, but I think it's maybe just the stress of living in this motel with all these kids, and it's hot and we're stuck in here 90% of the time, like And I know what you're thinking. If it's so hot, then why are you also bundled up? The first thing in the morning and then like later at night, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, there's this weird temperature dip, and then it takes like forever for it to suddenly start heating up, and then all of a sudden it's just freaking hot. And I'm sure other Oregonians can confirm this because it's just been a weird summer. You think, when is the sun going to come out? And then all of a sudden it comes out and it's blazing hot like 10 minutes later. But let's get back to picking these blackberries. There's nothing better than some fresh picked berries, in my opinion. Or honestly, just fresh fruit in general. I swear there's nothing better. And me and my kiddos, including my youngest, have been snacking on fruit a lot this summer. So when I said any of these babies are inside like 90% of the time, what I mean is just like Drew did pick up a job like we were saying, and he also does the gig work. And as you know, we only have the one vehicle. And it's not even just that. These days, functions to take your kiddos to cost a lot of money. If we want to do anything as a family, we're going to have to rent a car. I've done the math on pretty much anything we want to do is going to cost us anywhere from $200 to $300. And honestly, that's why we haven't done the urban air trip. We've been trying to put aside as much as we can for housing opportunities, and we've also come to the conclusion that there's other events and things that only pop up once a year, whereas urban air is there all the time. And I feel my kids are old enough, so I keep them pretty informed on like what the events are that are coming up throughout the year locally, or even if we want to take a little trip, and they know, they make a decision with me. So we ended up making like a blackberry syrup for our pancakes with those blackberries we picked, and then like I said, this was the day after we went to that motel, so this was also Drew's first day back at a W2. This particular morning, we were all up at like 5:36 in the morning. So after Drew had left for work, we went back out and picked a few more blackberries, ran some energy off outside, and we all ended up taking an afternoon nap. Thank you for watching.
But let's be real, he's not exactly working overtime. And yet, he gets full access to the only transportation while Stephanie continues to post carefully curated content, turning their kids' suffering into soft-focused storytelling. It's the same old cycle, dressed up in new clothes. Back when he was home all day gaming, live streaming, and chasing TikTok views, the kids still weren't going anywhere. No trips, no outings, no park days. So was the issue ever really the car? Or was that just another lazy, thin excuse, one stacked on top of a dozen others? Let's be real, there's public transportation. Buses. Community vans. Local rideshares. There are even parks and small playgrounds within walking distance in most neighborhoods. And if Stephanie truly wanted to give her kids a break from the stifling heat and the four walls of that cramped motel room, she could have found a way. But that requires energy, effort, and more importantly, the willingness to put her kids' needs above her own comfort, and that's where the real issue lies. Because the resources are there, they've always been there. Free splash pads. Public libraries with cool air and activities. Churches hosting community events. Museums with donation days. Entire programs designed for families exactly like hers. But Stephanie carries herself like none of these exist. And instead, her children are stuck inside that hot motel, day after day, like it's a sentence they're serving instead of a situation they're surviving. What she paints as a spontaneous family adventure is really just avoidance with a filter slapped on top. And then there's the urban air situation, one of the most heartbreaking examples yet. Stephanie dangled that trampoline park trip in front of her kids like a prize, promising it as a birthday reward, something they had been looking forward to for months. She hyped it up, got their hopes sky high, and when the day came, suddenly it was too expensive. She said it would cost $200 to $300, and claimed they needed to be saving for housing. A noble-sounding reason, until you dig a little deeper.
Brazilian Jenkins just made a new post about picking wild berries behind their motel. Stephanie explained why she's not taking her kids to urban air again, even after getting TikTok paid, and completely ignoring the elephant in the room that they have court tomorrow. Oh, let's talk about it. Now, content creators get paid on the 15th of every month by TikTok. So Stephanie let us know that she has all these activities planned for the kids, but not Urban Air. And she didn't tell us what these said activities were, but she let us know that the kids do know what they are. Mind you, this is a stay-at-home mom who lives in a motel who's only taken her kids to the public library all summer. And that was only one time. Next up, the berry picking outside the motel. Now, I'm all for foraging, but picking berries at a very sketchy motel is probably not the best idea. And tell me, why are they this messy? Yes, berries are messy, but you are the adult. I feel like she shows these things to try to be relatable. Like, your kids being a mess 24/7 is not relatable. And of course, last, she did not mention anything about their upcoming court date or their GoFundMe. The GoFundMe was a complete failure. They're at $200 right now, and I'm pretty sure she's the one who's anonymously donating to herself. And if you guys didn't hear, she had...
Because reportedly, Stephanie earns thousands from TikTok monthly. Their housing is already covered by shelter support. They pay no rent. So where exactly is that money going? Because it's not going toward the kids. No proper clothes. No birthday celebrations. No memories made. And that $200 trip? Never happened. But neither did any of the one-time special events she used as the excuse to cancel Urban Air. No zoo trips. No science museum afternoons. Not even a movie day. One of her daughters even wrote in a birthday card how she hated her sibling's birthday, how left out she felt, how invisible. And instead of taking that as a warning sign, Stephanie brushed right past it. When that daughter's own birthday came, she didn't even make it memorable. Claimed she wanted to keep it private and off social media, but it was clear, nothing happened. Another broken promise. Another quiet disappointment. And this isn't just about a missed party or a skipped park day. This is generational disappointment happening in real time. Stephanie once told her daughter, "Get used to being disappointed," when Drew failed to bring donuts like he promised. But that wasn't a one-off moment. That's the culture these kids are growing up in, a culture of constant letdowns, empty promises, and adults who use struggle as currency. And then, the storage unit incident. A gut punch. All of the kids' belongings, clothes, toys, photo albums, baby shoes, gone. Auctioned off for $4. $4. And Stephanie didn't lift a finger to stop it. No scramble to come up with a payment, no GoFundMe urgency. Just silence. Meanwhile, Drew flexed his new Apple Watch and gaming controller, both bought with money that could have saved those memories. It's not just poor planning anymore. It's willful neglect, dressed up as poverty. The toddler still wears oversized adult t-shirts. One child wears the same thick jumper in the blazing summer heat. Where are the shorts? The sandals? The breathable cotton tees every parent knows are essential in weather like this? There's no evidence of new clothes, no signs of well-balanced meals, no hint of joy or security, just performance, always performance. Because that's what Drew's job really is, not work, but a role. He goes through the motions just enough to keep the story alive. Just enough to say he tried. It's not about building a future, it's about maintaining the image of effort. The sympathetic father trying so hard against all odds. And Stephanie? She's not just complicit, she's mirroring the same behavior. Constant excuses. Constant spin. Always a new reason. A new distraction. They've built a wall of excuses high enough to block out any real accountability. It's not just denial, it's strategy. A carefully cultivated storyline where they are always the struggling underdogs, the misunderstood parents, the victims of bad luck and hard times. And with every like, every share, every donation, the illusion grows stronger. And while Drew and Stephanie continue to posture for TikTok, curate their chaos for live streams, and talk endlessly about how hard things are, their kids are left in the shadows, living a life filled with disappointment and silence. No urban air trip, even after weeks of promises. No birthday joy, not even a small effort to make their children feel seen. One daughter literally poured her heart out, saying how unloved and excluded she felt, and even that didn't shift the energy. The response wasn't tenderness. It was neglect dressed in excuses. There are no simple joys. No carefree park days. No splash pad laughs. No melting ice cream cones on hot afternoons. Just more time behind those motel walls, walls closing in with clutter, with heat, with emotional distance so thick it's starting to feel permanent. The children aren't just surviving poor circumstances, they're absorbing them, learning that broken promises are normal. That adults always say one thing and do another. That love often arrives empty-handed and late, if it arrives at all. This isn't just about financial hardship. This is emotional damage in slow motion. These kids are being quietly conditioned to believe that joy is a luxury they don't get to have. That asking for more is selfish. That they should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention or comfort come their way, no matter how little, no matter how late. They're being trained to accept neglect as love, to wait in silence, and to normalize the ache of always being an afterthought. And that's what makes this so hard to watch. Because this isn't the system failing them anymore, this is Drew and Stephanie choosing this. Choosing to center themselves. Choosing to chase validation, views, and sympathy while their children carry the real burden off camera. Every TikTok story, every update, every excuse cloaked in mental health, or, we're just trying, it's all noise. Noise that drowns out the sound of kids growing numb to disappointment. It's no longer a question of bad luck. It's a pattern. A routine. A carefully maintained storyline. Two adults who keep crafting their own struggle into content, turning their life into a slow-moving tragedy they can monetize and control. The motel isn't just a shelter, it's a set. The jobs, the promises, the drama, it's all scripted. And the kids? They're extras in a show they never signed up for. Let's be honest. Drew's job at Safeway? It's starting to look like a prop in the same performance he's been giving for months. All this chaos, all this noise, it raises the question, is Drew deliberately sabotaging it for another sympathy arc? And Stephanie, overwhelmed? Or is she choreographing her hardship for content, one emotional cliffhanger at a time? Let me know what you think in the comments. Are they in survival mode or spotlight mode? Because one thing's clear, the storyline may be curated, but the impact on those kids is very real. Stick around, like, and subscribe, because this unraveling saga is far from over, and the truth is still unfolding with every post.